Hello and a very warm welcome to Tatacom presents ET Studios, The Curious Case of Cloud in association with ETCIO. I'm your host Himanshi Tiwari. Now in this panel we are joined in by Jaipal Deswal, who is the Senior Vice President Technology Development at Make My Trip. We are also joined in by Rajiv Taneja, who is the CIO at Honda Motorcycles. And we are joined in by, of course, Rajesh Avasi, who is the Senior Vice President and Business Head at Tata Communications. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, to start with, if we can set the context for our audiences, for our viewers, what role does cloud optimization plays in the business landscape, in the current landscape? We can start with you, sir.
I think it plays a very important role. Cloud optimization is really important. Why? Because if you don't optimize your resources at the cloud, you may end up spending too much of money at the end of the day. So how do you optimize those resources? That is more important, right? So yeah. I think the scalability, auto scalability is one of the features which we should use, and so that you can really keep on scaling your resources when based on the demand. If the demand is more, you can scale those resources up.
Yeah.
If the demand is less, you can scale it down. So based on the festive season, for example, for us, during the festive seasons, we keep on scaling our resources.
Yeah.
Because the demand is there, and the whole year we don't need those resources, so we scale it down.
All right.
I think also in the normal days, normal running period, still sometimes during the night times, we don't need those kind of resources, right? So you really need to optimize those resources by we switch off some of our workloads which are not required. For example, we have active and the passive nodes, so we try to stop those passive nodes in the night time, and in the morning again we scale them up. So this is another kind of optimization which we are doing. So I think this is very important to help to cut your costs and keep them in control.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for sharing those insights. Now moving to Jaipal sir, since cloud optimization is such a hot button topic right now, right? Like as he told how important it is. What are your views when it comes to cloud optimization? Like what is bringing this urgency among the businesses?
Right. So again, cloud optimizations is extremely important for any organizations to optimally operate from overall IT P&L point of view. So if we compare on-prem expense versus cloud expense to run the same kind of business, cloud is always 3 to 4x more expensive, right? So ultimately what matters is value for money, right? Are you getting the right value for the spend that you are incurring to run your operations on cloud?
Yeah.
So from my personal experience, till 2017, we were operating on the on-prem infrastructure. When we migrated from on-prem to cloud, we were spending almost 5x more compared to what was the cost when we were operating from 2 data centers. One was in Mumbai, second was in Chennai, right? So from 2018 till pandemic, we just did the lift and shift. We never optimized it. And during pandemic, we when the entire hospitality business was stalled, so we realized how important it is to optimize our cloud spend.
All right.
And then we started working on those, and we got very good benefit out of that. So not only from spend point of view, cloud optimizations is important from sustainability point of view also. Earlier organizations were not giving that much importance to the environment sustainability. So if you are running your applications onto the cloud and in an optimized manner, definitely lesser energy will be consumed, which will be beneficial for the overall.
No, of course. Thank you for sharing that. We have been talking a lot about cloud. We have been talking about AI, like all these terms, different terms. Like, so if I come to you, Rajesh sir, when was that first time? Like, what was that first time when you met cloud for the first time, right? Like, what was your first meeting with cloud?
I think I was one of the lucky technocrats, I would say, who got into this space early on, which was around 15 years back. I joined a company which was getting into cloud services business, and they wanted me to drive the business for that company to embed their technology with the cloud service provider, and that's where I got my first stint with the cloud services world, basically, that how it could help customers or enterprises who want a system which is scalable, which is wanting elasticity as per the requirement, and also if they wanted to go faster for a certain thing to market in the opportunities which they were working on, they had an option to go to a cloud service provider and consume technology as a service rather than as a equipment or a systems which they were consuming within their own data centers. So that's something which I got around 15 years back. If I come back to your earlier question specifically on why it is becoming important for people to consider optimization on cloud, one of the reasons people went to cloud was because they wanted to go faster to the market. With that, they got the scalable systems, so people started consuming them fast. So it was a case where people were getting things on the fly when they wanted. And what became very important in that scenario was how do you manage that environment well? Otherwise, if you don't keep any guardrails around that, your cost could go up drastically. And that is what a lot of enterprises and customers found, that when they adopted cloud, initially their consumption of cloud went up, and because of that consumption, their bills also went skywards. And I'm sure they would agree with me, none of the CFO would give infinite budgets to run the operations. So that's why it became important for organizations to put in guardrails to have an optimization on the consumption of cloud services when they started using those for their business benefits.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for bringing up that point, and that brings me to my next question, which is about underutilized resources, right? In a cloud environment, there must be a lot of underutilized resources as well. So if I ask you, Rajiv sir, how can we identify those underutilized resources, and also how can we optimize them?
See, we all know that if there is no monitoring, there is no control. So, right. So you need to actually keep a track of what is happening on the cloud. So it's not like you just use a cloud service and just forget it. So you have to keep a check on regular basis, and once you start monitoring your resources, you will identify that whether your costs are going up. So like he was telling, the cloud is actually very, very expensive, right?
Yeah.
Why it is very, very expensive? Because sometimes people don't keep a check on it. And then slowly the configurations which are done, they may not be required sometimes, and everything you enable on the cloud actually is a cost, right? So you need to keep a check on whatever is enabled, right? And for that there are a lot of monitoring tools which are available on the cloud. So you need to deploy those tools. Sometimes those tools comes as a part of service when you take it from the cloud provider, or sometimes if you are putting your application taking to migrating to a cloud, then you need to put those checks in place, and if you do that, then definitely you can always keep a check on your cost. So I remember we also had these kind of tools available, and we were able to, initially when we migrated one of our application to cloud, the cost went phenomenally high, beyond our expectations. So whatever initial estimations we did, it went beyond that. And finally, then we actually put it some of the guardrails which he was mentioning, where we started checking what is going wrong, and then slowly we were able to optimize some of the things which are not enabled. We disabled those options, and finally we could bring our costs down as per our estimation levels. So I think those kind of monitorings are definitely required, and a lot of tools are available.
Tools are available. Yeah. Talking about tools, I would come back to you, Rajesh sir. What tools and technologies are there in the market, or shall we use to automate these cloud tasks that can perhaps increase our efficiency and also reduce downtime tasks?
I think he brought in a very valid point related to that what can be monitored can be managed well. Okay. That goes as a topmost thing when you're talking about your cloud consumption and optimization. As he highlighted, there are tools which are available as a service from the cloud providers to give you dashboards on how the utilization of your infrastructure or platforms that you're consuming from their services is important for you to monitor. I think what is also important is how do you automate workflows which would also gives you alert at the right time, because it's very difficult with a very small teams within your organization to continuously monitor how the utilization is going on. So having the dashboards is important, but what is also important is that you need to have the frameworks like ITSM which were used within the on-premise data centers to be integrated with the cloud also, because those frameworks always gave you those workflows to make sure that the people who are supposed to monitor and manage the systems, they are alerted when the thresholds are going beyond that. So having a platform which will give you monitoring capability which comes from the cloud providers integrated with your IT services management framework is something which is very important. This becomes very important if you happen to use multi-cloud environment, because then you have two different technologies, two different platform portals which are coming in. Their ways of giving alerts may be slightly different. So how do you integrate that with your service management systems is very important.
Thank you for sharing that. Now coming to you, Jaipal sir, as these two gentlemen have been talking about, cost is a very important factor, right? So if I ask you if you can share, like you're coming from MMT, you're coming from that sort of background, right, where you use so much technology, like you have your own stack of technologies in a lot of places, right? So if you can share any one example where you might have used a tool or technology to automate the cloud task that perhaps would have increased the operational efficiency and also the cost efficiency.
Yeah, definitely. There are multiple tools and multiple platforms that we have integrated or deployed in our environment to automate multiple operational activities, which are not only helping us out to give operational efficiencies, but along with that, we are getting significant cost saving also. So one point which Rajesh and Rajiv both mentioned about the monitoring of your infrastructure cost. So we have all different dashboards in place, we have all different alerts in place, as and when any particular service or any infrastructure component is going beyond the consumption level or going beyond the expected cost percentage consumption level, the alerts are being raised at that point of time, and how we compare whether the consumption or the utilization what is happening today is within budget or within threshold or not. We compare the daily cost of a particular service, of a particular component, of a particular infrastructure component from yesterday. What was the consumption? What is the consumption same day 1 week back and 2 weeks back? So that way we get the historical trends, and if there is any fluctuation in terms of the cost going up, the alerts are being generated into the system, and people then start acting on those alerts to identify the root cause and then fix the problems. Second is the automation of various other activities also. For example, what Rajiv mentioned about scaling down the unused infrastructure during non-peak hours. So all of those activities, until unless there is a manual intervention required, you cannot do or you cannot perform with 100% efficiencies. For that, those kind of workflows and tasks also, you need some frameworks, automation frameworks, which can trigger automatically to do the job and in a more efficient way to do the cost savings.
All right, thank you so much. We've been talking about the high performance, maintaining high performance. We are talking about managing costs and bringing that sort of efficiency, right? But now I would like to take my journalist's liberty to ask this very interesting question. How do you sort of balance these both things, like managing costs and also perhaps maintaining high performance in your cloud infrastructure? And we can start with you, sir.
Yeah, so I think this balance is really important, managing cost and taking care of. So you need to actually, train your workforce to take care of all these things. So if the workforce is, so it's not easy to maintain a cloud, environment, right? So either you can manage, if you are managing it through your partner, so, the partner, selection of partner, depending on the cloud which you are, using, it is very important. So And if you are managing on your own, for example, then your internal workforce has to be trained to take care of those aspects. So if you are not able to keep a check, and if you don't know what configurations are there, then you may end up, like we discussed, you may end up spending huge cost, and your resources may not get optimized. So I think training and awareness is very, very important when you manage a cloud environment, right? So this is one point, right, where you need to keep a check. Your manpower has to be equipped enough with all the tools which are required. For example, what we have done is, we, like he was discussing, we actually automated some of the process, where we are saying that you scale down and scale up as per the requirement. So we have put in some scripts which automatically run in the background, and then the scaling the scaling down is done, and wherein you can save those resources. Now, to create those scripts also you need that kind of expertise, right? It is not that so if it has to happen, someone has to create those scripts, right? So that knowledge and skill is important. So which can really help you to to actually cut on your costs and keep a check on what is happening.
What is happening? No, of course, coming to you, Rajesh, sir, you have been in this industry for so long, and you've been telling like 15 years back was your first incident with cloud. But again, the same question, how to strike the right balance between managing costs and maintaining high performance?
I think cloud gives you the right flexibility from an elasticity and scalability and performance perspective. Just to elaborate to what he was talking about, normally when you wanted to deploy your application workloads within your own data center, you always sized your infrastructure for peak load which you thought would be there for the financial year or for the time period for which you were creating that environment. So that means you always had some buffer capacity within your own data centers. Yeah. When you go to cloud, you don't have to do that, because you assume that because of scalability and elasticity, you will be able to scale as per your demand, application demand that is going to come in. And that's where some of the automations come in from the platform itself. They call it as auto scale groups, where you can define thresholds. Like if you had your own data centers and you deployed an application, possibly you would deploy that your normal day-to-day work, 60% utilization of infrastructure is where you would size your infrastructure for. That means you would normally be using only 60% capacity of your in-house systems. Yeah. Whereas when you go to cloud, you could actually go to 90%, and if you have demand for more than 90%, you can set a threshold for an auto scale group to scale another instance of similar application, and those automations are available on the cloud. That's the utility of cloud basically, and that helps you in optimizing your cloud workloads very well. He did mention about scripting. There are scripts also which are required more to integrate the application workload also along with the auto scale group capability of the platform itself. That's where you need to do the integration, and that's where you need to have the capabilities available within your team or with your partner who would help you create that environment. With cloud, I think people are now moving one notch up. We saw within our data centers people using physical servers, then they moved into virtualized environment. I think in cloud world, people are talking about cloud native applications, which can be deployed on containers. Containers become further granular. You don't have to have containers of similar size as your virtual machines. You could have even smaller containers, and you can, as soon as your application workload reaches a certain threshold, the containers will spawn on their own, and that's the capability which comes from the cloud native world. And that's where people start getting the best benefits of the cloud environment. He spoke about rehosting, which is taking as is virtualized environment on the cloud environment. That will give you some benefits, but you will still have lot of areas of improvement. It's only when you re-platform and you re-optimize your applications to use these technologies is when you get best outcomes out of that. And that's something which a lot of enterprises like theirs are now looking into to further optimize the utilization of cloud.
All right, thank you for sharing those detailed views. It's very interesting to moderate a panel with different opinions. This is the point where I am now starting to enjoy. But coming to you, Rajiv sir, when we talk about the business landscape, digital transformation and security are the two pillars of the business landscape, right? We have been talking so much about cloud optimization, but what about security? Like when it comes to cloud optimization, how can we ensure that it doesn't compromise our security efforts as well?
Yeah, so first thing which he was talking about is about the cloud native applications. So when you host any of your application to cloud, you need to also see what is the architecture of that application, whether it has those containerized facility available or not, whether if it is a standard architecture, it may not be suitable for cloud. So if you just lift and shift that application, there could be some security challenges which you may have to face. So from that perspective, what are the right workloads which can be really migrated to cloud, or you can take it to cloud? So that is one aspect of it. And then there are many tools available which can be deployed on your workloads which are actually hosted on the cloud. For example, whether you need to see that whether your data which is there, whether it is in both at transit as at rest, whether it is encrypted or not, right? I will give you example. For example, one of application which was hosted which is hosted on the cloud, which we migrated actually. That application was just a lift and shift for us. It had no containerized capability. Okay, it's just a lift and shift. But then there were a lot of challenges when we actually hosted on the cloud. We found a lot of security aspects which were lagging. And then we with the help of those tools which are available from the cloud provider, we were able to identify that this application, for example, there is a tool which is in the name of CAST. It will tell you that your application, whether even the versioning of the application, where the code where the code which is written is a very old version.
Okay.
So you need to if you deploy those tools, it will tell you what you need to do, and you need to make your application more secure. Okay, so those are certain aspects which which need to be taken care.
All right.
I just would like to add a few things on top of it. So cloud doesn't give you a secure environment. Cloud just helps you to provide secure environment in terms of only hardware point of view. But there are multiple other entry points from where the hackers can penetrate into your ecosystem and do the damage whatever they want to do. So there is a parameter side where definitely on top of your cloud infrastructure, you need to deploy the WAF platforms to make sure your entry points are all safe. Then the data point, what Rajiv mentioned, that the data either in transit or at rest has to be in encrypted format, so that, and the encryption key should be stored in a very secure wallet, so that if anyone is able to penetrate to your environment, they don't know the key through via which they can decrypt the data and they can steal the data. And multiple other ways from where application is another, which is not in the control of the cloud application. Definitely your company software engineers are developing and deploying that. So multiple ways of monitoring your infrastructure, your application, your business from security point of view, and you have to deploy different platforms, different platforms for different areas.
All right. No, thank you so much for bringing in that points. But do we have any more security concerns when it comes to cloud optimization? Like any one of you can.
Yeah, maybe I'll try and add. I think when you talk about cybersecurity, it is how paranoid are you for your data. I think that's how I would put it. Okay. You can put in a lot of controls, but there would be threat vectors who would be ahead of you. So you need to put in systems which are going to monitor those threats also, which are anomalies from the standard way the data is getting accessed. You need to do that. And I think there are technologies which are evolving in that area. One of the area which people talk about is cloud workplace protection management, assessment and management. That's a tool which is available today on cloud environments, which is, in my view, becoming very important to be considered when you are looking at cloud environment. But having that is also not good enough, because I'm sure you would agree, in today's world, the data is segregated. Yes, we may have one cloud provider as our primary cloud provider, but we would have surely 2 or 3 data islands which are there. There would be certain SaaS applications which you may be using. There may be certain areas where you might have used X cloud service provider, but for some of the other things you might have gone with the other cloud provider. So multi-cloud world is becoming a reality. So having regular vulnerability assessment and management using tools like CWPM, which I spoke about, is becoming the need of the hour. So having tools, is that good enough? Maybe yes, maybe not. What you also need to have is systems and processes to make sure that you do vulnerability assessment on regular basis. That will ensure that your systems are secure from cyber threats which are coming in. And one benefit that you get of cloud is, since they are talking to multiple customers, they get to know about a lot of those threats early on in comparison to if you were to deploy that within your own data centers. Because they would have catered to multiple customers. Having said that, is it possible on cloud you would have such vulnerabilities? Yes, we saw CrowdStrike incident which was happening on the public cloud environments. So it is about how vigilant you are and also making sure that you put in, as people are calling cloud ops ke saath mein, what you need is SecOps or security operations. How do you integrate those vulnerabilities management systems with your cloud SOC which you may have deployed within your environment? I think that is going to make the difference.
Yeah, we have been talking about costs. We have been talking about maintaining high performance of your cloud optimization efforts. We have been talking about, of course, the security concerns. At the end of the day, it feels like this whole process is more of an art than science, right? On that note, we didn't yet talk about the success of your cloud optimization efforts, right? If I come to you, Jaipal sir, how can we sort of measure the success of our cloud optimization efforts? Like, do you use any KPIs or metrics for this?
Yes, we definitely do, because if you don't have that kind of framework, how you will be able to justify your management that we have done some significant and persistent work in terms of doing the cloud
the
optimization,
management
right?
needs ROI.
So how we track it down is, we map it with our business KPIs, right? For example, on daily basis, Make My Trip is doing 100K transactions, and our daily spend is, for example, $100. Then day by day, month by month, quarter by quarter, we do projections on how much we are expecting our business to grow, including year by year also, and what are the estimations of the cloud cost that will increase. So take an example, in our assessment, what we anticipate is our business will grow by 22 or 25%, but our cloud cost should not increase from 7 to 8%, not beyond that, right? As and when we notice that there is a spike in cost, but the growth is not at the same level, that means there is some miss. Either some over provisioning has happened, or some new features have been rolled out which are incurring more cost but not giving the real business benefit. So we do all those R&Ds and identify those areas because of which the deviation between the business growth and the cost spike is there. So that is one primary factor where the business KPI versus the spend that we are doing, the comparison, the framework that we are using. Second is, again, what I mentioned before, day-to-day comparison, how our trends. For example, in Make My Trip, there are n number of verticals, and we have more than 2,000 microservices to support those n business verticals. So every business vertical, we have properly tagged our instances or our components, that this particular instance or this component is tagged to this particular business unit. How on daily basis the overall cost trend or the consumption trend is changing depending on, and what is the traffic pattern, what is the business pattern, and what is the cost pattern. So that framework we are using to see if we are within budget or we are going beyond budget.
No, thank you so much for sharing that in-depth insights with all those numbers. But at this point in time, I'm really interested, if you all can share a real life scenario with me where you might have used cloud optimization and that must have actually increased the efficiency and performance of operations. Maybe we can start with you, Rajiv sir.
So, one thing which we need to understand that cloud is not cheap. Okay, so if you want to take your applications to cloud, definitely the ROI, very difficult. So there are different reasons why you take your applications to cloud, right? It could be compliance issues. It could be because of which you are taking your application to cloud. It could be scalability requirements or agility requirements. Those are the workloads which should be taken to cloud, right? What I can tell is for example, why in our cloud environment when we have taken some of the applications, how do we monitor whether we are getting the benefits for those applications or not? So there is a tool which is available. For example, we are using UpGuard kind of tool where it will do a posture check of all my applications which are published on the internet, which are actually hosted on the cloud. So it will do a security 360-degree security check, and at different verticals, it gives us a score, and we can actually benchmark ourselves against other industries. Our company, other competitors which are there in the market, where do they stand? So you can take that service and it will tell you what is the score in different parameters, and then you can regularly keep a check where do you stand in the market and where do you really need to improve. For example, in a particular area, security aspect, if it is for example networking side, it will tell you that you need to improve. So it gives you at the granular level, it will tell you where you need to work to improve that score.
Improved. Okay. All right. No, thank you so much for sharing that, and that brings me to my next question to you, Rajesh sir. What are those common mistakes that businesses tend to make while optimizing their cloud environments, and how can they perhaps look at avoiding them?
Okay. Before I go there, maybe I'll give an example based on our experience with one of the customers that we worked with and how they benefited from cloud adoption basically. See, as Jaipal was talking about, his line of business is also very aligned with internet. Okay. So your business KPIs and the consumption of cloud is very much aligned. Whereas for B2B business, it becomes slightly difficult, and I'm sure Rajiv would agree on that, where you don't have direct to consumer kind of a business. Giving that ROI definition becomes slightly difficult, okay, because you won't have direct one-on-one correlation vis-a-vis your business objectives and the consumption of the cloud environment, okay. Having said that, for one of our e-commerce customers, they were on their private cloud, and when they looked at cloud adoption, one of the things which we helped them with was basically automating some of the processes which would help them roll out any new offering that they wanted to take it to the market. Okay. So since they were e-commerce customers, they have Big Billion Day or some other day which comes in, or they have electronics sale which is going on, or some of the others. So for them, before they got onto the cloud environment, it used to take them more than a month to roll out any new offer, because first they had to deploy it on their development systems, then on UAT environments, and then on production environment. And that data migration would have its own inertia to be tested on those production environments. I think one of the things which we did for them was we automated what is called as a technology term CI/CD pipeline, which is continuous integration and continuous development. That means whatever is your test and development or UAT environment, as soon as it is tested, that is converted into a production environment, and you take the other environment as your test and development environment.
Yeah.
Okay. That helped them to reduce that time to market from month to couple of days. That means if they had to go out with an offer, within couple of days from the time business said we want to launch this offer, IT teams and the CIOs could help them in doing that particular activity. So that's the benefit that you get. Now coming back to your question on what are some of the mistakes which people do. I think one of the most important things which each one of them stated is monitoring your systems from a utilization perspective, not from availability perspective, but from a utilization perspective is very important. So your focus has to change. When you are in your own data center, most of the times you are working towards keeping the lights on. That means availability should be taken care of. I think availability is given on the cloud environment. What you need to focus on is on the utilization. Whether for your workloads, are you optimally utilizing your infrastructure to the scale of 90% as I was talking about, and are you leveraging some of the automation capabilities of the platform to scale up if there was a need, or scale down. Auto scale does not mean it only scales up, it also automates the process of scaling down. As soon as your thresholds are met, it will scale up. If thresholds are going below certain, you will define those also. One important thing is to relook at those thresholds on a regular basis. Because your businesses change, your data volumes change. If you don't relook at those thresholds, what you may be getting today may become an nemesis for you at certain period of time, because your business objectives have changed, your utilizations have changed, so you need to relook at those is very important. And from our experience, I think that's where some of the platform capabilities are becoming very important, more so when you have a multi-cloud environment, because you may have people, skill sets within your organization for one cloud environment. Having that same guy to manage the other cloud environment also becomes a challenge, because technologies are similar but they are not same. So you need to focus on,
and it's evolving day by day.
It's evolving day by day. Okay. With AI coming in, I'm sure some of those AI operations is going to add value in that area. That is something which is getting integrated. So I think people can leverage on that capability of the cloud management platform is something which would help them. On the security side also, as he highlighted, the SecOps, when we talk about, is a platform based environment where you are not only looking at vulnerabilities, but you are also benchmarking against your peers in the industry, how they are using it. Like if you are from payment card, and he would agree on that, that you need to look at how payment card industry, PCI DSS is one of the compliances from a security perspective. How are you as against the global standards on PCI DSS? If you are from healthcare, are you aligned with HIPAA? If you are from telecom, are you aligned with the regulators who are talking of? So when you're talking of security, it's not related to cyber threats, also complying to the regulatory requirements in the geography that you're working on. I think those are things which are some things which are available as platform when people are putting in cloud ops, FinOps and SecOps, which helps in an overall operations management.
All right. Thank you so much. Do you want to
one more, one more point I would like to add is normally what mistake normally companies does while migrating from on-prem to cloud is, so they provide the access permissions to everyone, whoever wants to launch the instances in cloud environment without any control. So those controls should always be there so that people don't exploit the overall spawning of instances. Because see, if I'm a developer, I know I need to develop an application. I'm not responsible for, I will deploy that into cloud also. From tomorrow onward, I have to work on developing some new application. I will not care about the application which I built and deployed yesterday. So the consumption point of view, there should be someone, some framework who is monitoring that what has been deployed, how much consumption is there, is it over provisioned or under provisioned. So those kind of rail guards, and even provisioning right should be there with one specific team. In Make My Trip, we have a dedicated DevOps team. They only have rights to do any new kind of spawning. Not 1,000 engineers are eligible or authorized to make that happen. Because at the time of spawning new environment or new service or new instances, they ask thousands of questions from the requesters that why you need this big infrastructure, right? And after seeing the justification, they provision it, then they monitor it for next couple of days or weeks, and to see whether it is under provisioned or over provisioned, and depending on the data they do the readjustments to make sure that it is fully optimized.
No, thank you so much for sharing those views. You know, we have been speaking a lot about cloud optimization. We have spoke a lot about cloud optimization, and I've actually covered a lot of topics. But you know, as we are wrapping up this conversation, let's look ahead at the future. What are those emerging trends or technologies that you feel will shape the future of cloud optimization? And how should businesses be, you know, ready for it? Maybe we'll start with you, Rajiv, sir.
I think one technology which is coming to my mind is the use of CASB for cloud environment, which is Cloud Audit Security Broker. So, you know, this will really help to change the overall game, you know, when you take any application to cloud. So, it can, you know, it can work in multi-cloud environments like he was mentioning, and it will really help to, you know, keep our system secure. So, this technology is an evolving technology, and I think this needs to be used now.
All right, Rajesh, sir.
See, I know it is cliche nowadays that if you don't talk about AI, the discussion is not full. But as a MSP, I can tell you the experience that we have when we are managing at a scale our own cloud, which is catering to multiple customers. AI operations is going to become very important. That means integrating AI capabilities with your manual people who are managing the, so you want the intelligence of people who are managing that, but the mundane jobs need to be taken care of at scale using AI. I think that is something which will make things different for people when they consume cloud environment. In my view, that is going to be a game changer.
Game changer, of course. You know, with AI, we mostly are now reducing all sorts of transactional work, right? And I feel, you know, more so in the future, we'll have to train our employees also.
Yeah.
To be able to use AI, because of course we cannot integrate AI without giving that sort of learning and development to our employees. Now on that note, to you, Jaipal sir, what are those emerging trends that you feel?
Emerging trend definitely with Gen AI. I agree with Rajesh. Gen AI is very hot in market these days. Every company, every organization, every business is running after implementing multiple things which are going to change the overall customer experience, right? And behind the backbone of all these new innovations is Gen AI. And to make that happen, what is my perspective is the data privacy is going to be at risk.
All right.
Because you are going to use multiple third-party services, and the decision will be based on the data that you are sharing with all those third-party enterprise services. So the data privacy will become a challenge going forward. So we have to take a very cautious decision. But data we are sharing with the third parties, the cloud providers or the service providers, how secure their environment is. Because if you are sharing the entire data with any third party, it is our responsibility also to ensure how safe and secure they are. Will they be persisting that data, or they will be throwing that data after consumptions? So those kind of security related concerns we should be more proactive about.
Yeah, no, of course, how AI is helping in our security and how we are helping AI in its security. In AI security is the question, and I think the trend that you have been talking about. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing all those views with us. It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you all. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos only at Tata Communications presents ET Studios, The Curious Case of Cloud, in association with ETCIO, a series where we deep dive into the world of digital transformation and cybersecurity, the two pillars redefining the business landscape as we know it.